بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of After the Prophet, brought to you by the Ahlul Bayt American Society and Tasneem Institute. So we've been discussing the period of Umar ibn al-Khattab's Khilafah, which spanned approximately 10 years. And during this period, we witnessed a seismic shift in the Muslim world, whereby during the Khilafah of Umar ibn al-Khattab, Islam essentially expanded beyond the borders of Arabia. During this 10-year period, during the Khilafah of Umar ibn al-Khattab, the Persian Empire collapsed. Parts of the Byzantine Empire were taken over, and the Muslim community by and large was navigating the challenges of sudden power and rapid conquest. There was a tremendous amount of wealth that was now flowing into Muslim societies. Now, in order to sustain these military expeditions, in order to ensure that these conquests continue and Muslims expand their empire even further and they go deeper into the territories that they had already conquered, there was a need to inspire the Muslims to continue to fight in the battlefields. And the pressures of expansion began to affect some of the religious practices. Now, what do we mean by this? You see, among the innovations of Umar ibn al-Khattab, and we've already spoken about some of them, there was also a change that was made to the adan, the call for prayer. Particularly the sentence in the adan where we recite Hayya ala khayr al-amal, which literally means come to the best of deeds. During the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hayya ala khayr al-amal was recited as a part of the adhan. During the Khilafah of Abu Bakr, the recitation of Hayya ala khayr al-amal was part of the adhan. And even during the early part of Umar ibn al-Khattab's rule, when the Muslims would recite the adhan, they would include Hayya ala khayr al-amal. And then Umar ibn al-Khattab ordered that this sentence be removed from the adhan and the iqamah. Now, of course, you have Sahaba of the Prophet who are present, you have Tabi'een, you have people who are well versed in the Sunnah of the Prophet. So they asked Umar, what was the justification for omitting something that was introduced by the Prophet, that was practiced by Muslims around the world? So Umar ibn al-Khattab responds, and this response is mentioned in a book known as Da'a'im al-Islam by the famous Qadi al-Nu'man, who is a prominent Ismaili jurist, and he was a historian and a legal scholar during the Fatimid dynasty. He died in 363 after the Hijrah. Of course, there are variations of this statement found in other sources, but I'll read from this source. So when Umar ibn al-Khattab is asked, why are you calling for the removal of Hayya ala khayr al-amal from the adhan and the iqamah? He says, إذا سمع عوام الناس أن الصلاة خير العمل تهاونوا بالجهاد وتخلفوا عنه. He says that if the common people, if the lay people if they hear day in and day out that prayer is the best of deeds, that the best amal is salah, they will take jihad lightly and they will stay behind when they are called to fight in jihad. So he makes the decision to remove this from the adan and the iqamah. And the narration in Da'a'im al-Islam is reported by Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. Now, what's interesting about the Khilaf of Umar ibn al-Khattab is he starts to think about who his successor will be, especially as he approaches the end of his Khilafah. He starts to ponder over who will succeed him and what will be the future of this Islamic empire. There's an interesting narration reported in Tarikh al-Yaqubi, which was authored by Ahmad ibn Abi Yahya al-Yaqubi, who died in 292 after the Hijrah. He reports a narration from Abdullah ibn Abbas. Abdullah ibn Abbas, he says that Umar ibn al-Khattab, he came to me in the middle of the night and he said to me, "Come with me. Let us patrol the outskirts of Medina." You know, in many ways, Umar ibn al-Khattab was a bit of a micromanager, so he used to actually like walking around the city, patrolling. So Ibn Abbas, he says that we went out and Umar was barefoot and he was carrying his whip around his neck. He used to actually walk around with a whip and he would discipline people who were engaging in practices that were disapproved by him. So Abdullah ibn Abbas and Umar ibn al-Khattab, they're walking at night until they arrive at Jannatul Baqi', the cemetery that is adjacent to where the Prophet is buried today. And Umar ibn al-Khattab, according to Ibn Abbas, he was visibly anxious. Something was on his mind. So Ibn Abbas, being a master at human psychology, being a man of strong intuition, he says to Umar, "Do you want me to tell you what's on your mind? I know what's bothering you. I know what you're thinking about." So Umar says to him, "Dive deep, O diver." This is an expression where he basically says, "Tell me, you're a man of great insight. Tell me what you think I'm worried about and what I'm thinking about and what's occupying my thoughts." So Ibn Abbas, he says to Umar, "You're thinking about this affair. You're thinking about the Khilafah and the succession to your Khilafah and to whom you will entrust it. You're thinking about who the third Khalifa will be." So Umar ibn al-Khattab, he says to Ibn Abbas, "You've spoken the truth. You're right. I am thinking about succession. I am thinking about who will rule after me." And then Abdullah ibn Abbas, he starts to suggest certain candidates. He mentions the names of prominent companions of the Prophet, people who he thought were contenders for the Khilafah, to get Umar's assessment of these personalities. So Abdullah ibn Abbas, he says, فَأَيْنَ أَنْتَ عَنْ عَبْدِ الرَّحْمَنِ ibn Auf? He says, "What do you think of Abdul Rahman ibn Auf?" فَقَالَ ذَاكَ رَجُلٌ مُمْسِكٌ. He says that Abdul Rahman ibn Auf is a tight-fisted person. He's a bit stingy. وهذا الأمر لا يصلح إلا لمعط في غير سرف ومانع من غير إقتار. The Khilafah requires someone who's moderate, someone who gives but is not extravagant, and someone who withholds but is not miserly. Umar says Abdul Rahman ibn Auf is a stingy person. He's not qualified to be the Khalifa. He doesn't have the right temperament. He doesn't have that spirit of generosity. He doesn't have that moderation. So then Ibn Abbas, he mentions someone else. He suggests someone else as a possible candidate for the Khilafah. فَقُلْتُ فَسَعْدْ بْنُ أَبِي وَقَّاص. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, a famous companion of the Prophet. قَالَ مُؤْمِنٌ ضَعِيفٌ. He is mu'min, but he has a weak personality. He's not someone who has a strong character. So he says he's not a good candidate. فَقُلْتُ طَلْحَةُ بْنُ عُبَيْدِ اللَّهِ. How about Talha? Talha is a war veteran. He's a companion of the Prophet. What is Umar ibn al-Khattab's assessment of Talha? فَقَالَ ذَاكَ رَجُلٌ يُنَاوِلُ الشَّرَفَ وَالْمَدِيحِ. Talha is someone who chases after honor and praise. He likes to be praised. يُعْطِي مَالَهُ حَتَّى يَصِلَ إِلَى مَالِ غَيْرِهِ. He says this is someone who will invest his own money to access the money of others. So this is an individual who has a bit of self-centeredness. وَفِيهِ بَأْوٌ وَكِبْرٌ. Umar says Talha is full of pride. He's an arrogant person. He's not someone who is suitable for the Khilafah. So this is Umar ibn al-Khattab's assessment. فَقُلْتُ فَالزُّبَيْرُ بْنُ الْعَوَّامِ. How about Zubayr? فَهُوَ فَارِسُ الْإِسْلَامِ. Ibn Abbas says, how about Zubayr? Zubayr is one of the warriors of Islam. This is a man who's been battle tested. Surely he would make a good candidate. فَقَالَ ذَاكَ يَوْمٌ شَيْطَانٌ وَيَوْمٌ إِنسَانٌ. Umar says, Zubayr, he's unstable. One day he's a devil, and the other day he's a human being. Meaning he's a person of extremes. And sometimes we have people like that. One day they're angels, they're so religious, and then they go to the other extreme. The pendulum swings. And we have to be honest. Umar's assessment of these men, it's accurate. Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, he's alongside the Prophet fighting the mushrikeen. He was one of those few individuals who shaved his head and was willing to confront the government of Abu Bakr. He saw Ali as legitimate. And then, as we will see, during the Khilafah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he changes sides. He's then fighting Ali ibn Abi Talib. So Umar's assessment of Zubayr is accurate. He's a person of extremes. One day he's a shaitan, another day he's a human being. He's an insan. And then he says, وَعِفَّةُ نَفْسٍ. He's a person of self-restraint. However, إن كان ليكادح على المكيلة من بكرة إلى الظهر حتى تفوته الصلاة. He says, but I've seen him work and toil morning until noon, so much so that he misses his prayer. Sometimes he becomes so engrossed in his work that he misses his salah. So he's an interesting personality. Someone who will fight jihad fi sabilillah during the time of the Prophet, but he'll get engrossed and sometimes he'll miss his prayer. So he's not someone who's stable. He's a person of extremes. فَقُلْتُ فَعُثْمَانُ بْنُ عَفَّانَ. How about Uthman ibn Affan? What do you think about him? فَقَالَ إِنْ وَلِيَ حَمَلَ بَنِي أَبِي مُعَيْطٍ وَبَنِي أُمَيَّةَ عَلَى رِقَابِ النَّاسِ. If he is given authority, if Uthman is given authority, he will place the sons of Abu Mu'ayt, who was one of the staunch enemies of the Prophet, one of the Qurayshis. He will place the sons of Abu Mu'ayt and Bani Umayyah on the necks of the people. He's a nepotist. He'll bring his family to power. He'll give authority to Bani Umayyah and they will crush the necks of the people. وَأَعْطَاهُمْ مَالَ اللَّهِ, and he'll start to give them access to the wealth of Allah, meaning they will start to plunder the wealth of the Muslims. وَلَئِنْ وَلِيَ لَيَفْعَلَنَّ وَاللَّهِ. Umar, he says, I swear by Allah that if Uthman reaches the Khilafah, he will certainly do this. He will create a culture of nepotism. His family, cousins, nephews, relatives, they will all be given roles in the government. And they will misappropriate public funds. And indeed, he will do this. وَلَئِنْ فَعَلَ لَتَسِيرَنَّ الْعَرَبُ إِلَيْهِ حَتَّى تَقْتُلَهُ فِي بَيْتِهِ. And if he does this, the Arabs, they will rebel against him until they kill him in his own home. Subhanallah, what a prophecy. This is exactly what happens. So Umar ibn al-Khattab, he's able to read people very well. And then Abdullah ibn Abbas, he becomes silent. وَسَكَتْ. فَقَالَ لِي, Ibn Abbas, he says, okay, after I suggested Uthman, I stopped speaking. فَقَالَ لِي أَمْضِهَا يَا ابْنَ Abbas. Go on. I know what you're going to ask next. أَتَرَى صَاحِبَكُمْ لَهَا مَوْضِعًا. Do you think your companion has a place in it, has a place in the Khilafah? Umar is saying that, don't stop at Uthman. Ask me what I think about Ali. I know that's what you're thinking. How about Ali? Is Ali suitable for the Khilafah? Ibn Abbas, he says, وَأَيْنَ يُتَبَعَّدُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. How can Ali be excluded from such a discussion? مَعَ فَضْلِهِ وَسَابِقَتِهِ وَقَرَابَتِهِ وَعِلْمِهِ. How can Ali not be a part of the discussion, given his virtue, his precedence in Islam, his proximity, his kinship to the Prophet, and his knowledge? فَقَالْ هُوَ وَاللَّهِ كَمَا ذَكَرْتَ. Umar is now having a very candid conversation with Ibn Abbas. He says, by Allah, Ali is as you described. وَلَوْ وَلِيَهُمْ لَحَمَلَهُمْ عَلَى مَنْهَجِ الطَّرِيقِ. If he were to take charge, he would surely lead the people to the straight path. فَأَخَذَ الْمِحَجَّةَ الْوَاضِحَةَ. He would make them adhere to the clear truth. إِلَّا أَنَّ فِيهِ خِصَالًا. Except, Umar says that Ali has certain traits that I don't like. So what are the traits that Umar does not approve of in the character of Ali? It's very interesting what he mentions. Number one, he says, الدُّعَابَةَ فِي الْمَجْلِسِ. He jokes in gatherings. Subhanallah. He says, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, he has a bit of a sense of humor. Apparently this is something that disqualifies you from leadership. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he jokes. He had a sense of humor, just like the Prophet had a sense of humor. But Umar, he sees that as unacceptable. الدُّعَابَةَ فِي الْمَجْلِسِ وَاسْتِبْدَادَ الرَّأْيِ. He's very firm in his opinions. He's very headstrong when it comes to his views. Of course, Amir al-Mu'mineen, when it becomes to haqq and batil, he's not going to be lenient. So Umar says he's very firm in his opinions. وَالتَّبْكِيتَ لِلنَّاسِ. He rebukes people harshly. He rebukes people harshly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He addresses the Prophet in the Quran, what does He say? يَا أَيُّهَا النَّبِي جَاهِدِ الْكُفَّارَ وَالْمُنَافِقِينَ وَاغْلُظْ عَلَيْهِمْ. Allah says to the Prophet, who's rahmatan lil alameen, who's the most gentle of people, He says, O Prophet of God, strive against the disbelievers and the hypocrites. Are there not hypocrites among the Muslims? And what does Allah say to the Prophet? وَاغْلُظْ عَلَيْهِمْ. Be harsh, be firm with the munafiqeen. If Amir al-Mu'mineen rebukes, if he's harsh, that means he's dealing with people who are showing signs of nifaq. Amir al-Mu'mineen is harsh when it comes to the truth, when it comes to upholding the truth. And then he finally says, the last reason that he gives, مع حداثة السن, and he's still young. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he's now, at this point in his life, he's in his 40s. But according to Umar ibn al-Khattab, he's still too young. So Ibn Abbas, he says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, addressing Umar, هل استحدثتم سنة يوم الخندق? Why don't you revive the precedent on the day of Khandaq? You're saying that Ali is too old to be Khalifa, he's too young to be Khalifa, but he wasn't too young to fight Amr on the day of Khandaq. No one had an issue with his age when he had to go fight the most ferocious warrior of the Arabs. إذ خرج عمرو بن عبد ود وقد كعم عنه الأبطال. When Ali went, and Ali was young, he was in his 20s, when he went to fight Amr, the warriors, they all recoiled. وتأخر عنه الأشياخ, and the elders, they held back. Right? The elders, you're talking about elders should be the khulafa. Where were the elders on the day of Ahzab, on the day of Khandaq? So why don't you give him this position despite his age, in the same way that he was given these great responsibilities in the battles? وَيَوْمَ بَدْرٍ إِذْ كَانَ يَقُطُّ الْأَقْرَانَ قَطًّا. How about the day of Badr, when he was striking down his opponents one by one? Half of the casualties in Badr were through the efforts of Amir al-Mu'mineen. No one made an issue about his age. In Badr, everyone, they put their lives in the hands of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So if you put your life in the hand of Ali, why can't you put the administration of the government in his hands? وَلَا سَبَقْتُمُوهُ بِالْإِسْلَامِ, and you did not precede Ali in Islam. He was a Muslim before you. إِذْ كَانَ حَصِيلَتُهُ السَّغَبْ وَقُرَيْشٌ تَسْتَوْفِيكُمْ. Ali, he went through periods of hunger, especially during the Shi'b of Abi Talib. Ali was hungry. He made sacrifices. And during that period, you guys were well fed. You guys were eating. You guys were benefiting from Quraysh. And I challenge anyone to give me one report that mentions that Abu Bakr or Umar delivered food to Rasulullah when Rasulullah and the Bani Hashim were in the Shi'b of Abi Talib on the brink of starvation. I challenge anyone. Amir al-Mu'mineen was there. He was in the trenches with the Prophet. He experienced that suffering. فَقَالَ وَاللَّهِ, then Umar responds, فَقَالَ وَاللَّهِ ibn Abbas, I swear, O Ibn Abbas, إِنَّ عَلِيًّا ibn عَمِّكَ لَأَحَقُّ النَّاسِ بِهَا. O Ibn Abbas, your cousin Ali is the most deserving of it. I agree with you. وَلَكِنَّ قُرَيْشًا لَا تَحْتَمِلُهُ. But the problem is Quraysh, the aristocrats of Mecca, they cannot bear him. It's amazing that Umar ibn al-Khattab is giving so much importance to how Quraysh is going to respond. It's not about what's most pleasing to Allah. What did the Prophet want? What will earn the pleasure of Allah? It's all about Quraysh. What will Quraysh do? How will Quraysh respond? Quraysh cannot bear this. وَلَئِنْ وَلِيَهُمْ لَيَأْخُذَنَّهُمْ بِمَرِّ الْحَقِّ. If Ali takes charge, he will hold them to the harsh edge of the truth. He will hold them accountable. لَا يَجِدُونَ عِنْدَهُ رُخْصَةً. Oh, now the truth comes out. This is the problem with Ali. He says if he becomes Khalifa, they will find no leniency in him. Because these are people, they're accustomed to privilege, and Ali is coming with justice. You know, as the saying goes, when you're accustomed to privilege, justice feels like oppression. They can't handle. It was the justice of Ali that they were not ready to embrace. That's the problem that they had with Amir al-Mu'mineen. They wanted nepotism. They wanted privilege. They wanted favoritism. They wanted tribalism. They wanted to go back to the ways of Jahiliyyah. Ali was trying to hold them to Islam. He was trying to hold them accountable. But again, here Umar ibn al-Khattab is essentially saying that we have to appease. We have to appease Quraysh. وَلَئِنْ فَعَلْ, and if he becomes the Khalifa and he holds people to the truth and he denies them that leniency, لَيَنْكُثُنَّ بَيْعَةً, they will break their allegiance to him. ثُمَّ لَيَتَحَارَبَنَّ, and they will fight him. They will go to war with him. And this is exactly what happens. Umar ibn al-Khattab accurately prophesizes this. Now, a question that I want to look at very briefly is that why did Umar ibn al-Khattab frequently confide in Abdullah ibn Abbas? Why is it that he shares confidential and sensitive information with Abdullah ibn Abbas, given that he's from Bani Hashim? He's the cousin of Ali. You would think that Umar would be cautious, especially because, this is not someone who's a part of his family. He's a family of the Hashemites. And the Hashemites, they basically represent the political opposition. So why does he feel so comfortable around Abdullah ibn Abbas? For a number of reasons, and I'll just mention a few very briefly. Number one, Abdullah ibn Abbas was a man of exceptional knowledge. He was a genius, for lack of a better word. Despite his young age, he was mature beyond his years. And Umar recognized that this is an individual with piercing insight. And when you're a ruler, you want to surround yourself with people with that type of wisdom and knowledge. Number two, Abdullah ibn Abbas gave Umar a way of gauging the sentiments of Bani Hashim. So he would keep him close because he was an individual who he could gain information about the reaction of Bani Hashim to some of his policies. This is number two. So it was a way for him to keep tabs on the sentiments of Bani Hashim. Number three, it gives legitimacy to his administration, that he's associating with a learned member from the extended family of the Prophet. So he can say that, one of my consultants, one of my advisors is Abdullah ibn Abbas, he's the cousin of the Prophet. So to not give people the impression that he has isolated the family of the Prophet, he confides in Abdullah ibn Abbas. But perhaps most importantly, Abdullah ibn Abbas is young and he's unambitious in terms of political power. So he does not pose an immediate threat to Umar's authority. He's a brilliant young man, but he doesn't have political ambitions. He's too young to be taken seriously as someone with political aspirations. So this is what makes him an ideal confidant. And this is what allowed Umar ibn al-Khattab to open up to him. Now, what we find is that Umar ibn al-Khattab's khilafah lasts for 10 years. And without going into too many details, Umar is wounded, fatally wounded, in the 23rd year after the Hijrah by a Persian slave known as Abu Lu'lu' al-Fayruzi. Umar was leading the Fajr prayers in Medina, and Abu Lu'lu' stabbed him multiple times with a double-edged dagger. Now, there's a debate about what the motive was. Without going into those details, Umar is now in critical condition. He's on his deathbed, he's bleeding out, and he only has a few days to live. And this is where Umar ibn al-Khattab now assembles the Shura, a consultation, a group to select the third Khalifa. And inshallah, we'll cover that in our next episode, whereby Umar ibn al-Khattab gives specific instructions and guidelines regarding how the third Khalifa is to be chosen in a closed meeting of 6 prominent companions of the Prophet. Inshallah, we'll delve into those details in our subsequent episode. Thank you so much, brothers and sisters, for tuning in once again. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.